Get ready to dive into the comic book realm, where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. On source material, we tear the panels apart.
Okay, here's the idea that came to me this morning. You all probably know by now that I use ChatGPT and Claude, two AI large language models, to help with my notes for some of the books. And if you didn't, essentially what I do is I take my notes after reading the book, or I should say while I'm reading the book, I take my notes, and then I take those and throw them into ChatGPT or Claude, and I say, okay, take my notes, write them in a paragraph format, summarizing what happened in the issue. Add some storytelling flair, a lot of times is what I'll put on there, just so it kind of sounds like, it's a little bit, it makes the synopsis definitely sound a lot better. And then I usually read over the synopsis, correct anything or add anything I think that's important, because ChatGPT has a tendency to leave some stuff out sometimes. But over the weekend, what I discovered is, actually I discovered this a while back. I'm currently using the paid version of ChatGPT 4.0. So, you can point your camera at something and ask ChatGPT, what is this? Or things of that nature. So a few weeks back, as an experiment, I took an image of a comic book page and threw it into ChatGPT, and I said, explain to me what is going on in this picture. And I had very low hopes, okay? So the bar was pretty low, because I really didn't know. I think it was an issue of Supreme, maybe, or it was the cover of Supreme. I can't remember. No, it was Sleepwalker, because I threw a page from Sleepwalker #1 in there, and it did a fantastic job of describing what was going on in the page. And it can also read words. So it's able to read and show or explain what is going on in the dialogue, who it's coming from, what's happening in the story even. So this is something that I was like, wow, okay. Now, before I switched to the paid model, I took it to its limits and threw a bunch of pages in there to see if it could tell me the story with something. And it hit a wall at like 3 or 4 pages, if I remember right. But anyway, the results were great. It could see what was going on. It could explain what was going on. It could also understand the story. So over the weekend, we recorded our discussions on some Marvel DC crossovers. And one of those was Superman Fantastic Four, which was 64 pages long, massive book. And I threw all of those pages, not all at once, I did it in sections, but I threw all of those pages into ChatGPT to get a description of what was going on the pages. And it worked somewhat, until I started to realize that I wasn't putting them in there in the correct order. So the story that it worked for like the first, 12 pages. And then I started to realize that ChatGPT was jumping around in the story. And I was like, what is going on? And I realized the images were out of order. That's an easy thing to fix. So that leads me to today, which my idea is to take a fairly old comic book, ALF, from 1988. ALF #1. And this is the first issue of ALF that I think was released by Marvel over in the UK. 35 pence. Issue dropped, or cover dated May of 1988. So here's the concept today. What I'm going to do, what I have done, is I've taken the comic book, pretty much 6 pages at a time, put it into ChatGPT, had it describe what was going on the page for the whole issue. And then I am going to read the issue, or at least look at the issue and compare notes as I'm going through to see what the AI got right and what it got wrong. Should be fun. Because now, if this works decently, you don't need to read comics anymore. You can just have AI read them to you and summarize what happened. But first, let me give you a little bit of just general history. I mean, if you saw the cover of what I was talking about, or the thumbnail of what I was talking about today, and you're like, ALF, yeah, I'm a fan. This is 1988 when this issue drops. September 22nd, 1986, he was on NBC. So at this point, it's close to a year and a half that ALF has been on the air. Marvel picked up the licenses and was doing comic books. But that hit right around, when I'm 8 years old. I was born in 78, so 86, I'm 8 years old. This is kind of up my wheelhouse. This is a alien puppet, just sarcastic, crude sometimes. When did The Simpsons debut? I feel like The Simpsons debuted right around this time. The Simpsons. And I know it showed up originally on Tracy Ullman's show. Yeah, April 19th, 1987. So it's interesting because ALF is kind of like this predecessor to Bart Simpson. Bart Simpson clearly is the kid, animated form here. So a lot of children could identify with him. But man, those late 80s, for me, at least in my friend group, we were all gravitating towards the sarcastic, smart aleck kids of the 80s. And ALF was not a kid, but he represented a lot of those traits to people like us, to kids like us, and we glommed on. The parents obviously enjoyed it as well. The Simpsons are still around. Bart Simpson is still a household name. But, 86, ALF drops. Right after that, The Simpsons drop on the Tracy Ullman Show, and it picks up in 1989. Do the Bartman. I think the last episode, I feel like maybe I did watch the final episode. I feel like I did stick with this for 4 years. So, because 1990, I'm still in that realm of, gosh, I think I'm 12 at that point. So yeah, from 8 to 12, I'm pretty sure I was enjoying ALF and all the sarcastic humor that ALF brought. I still to this day will say something along the lines of, I kill me. Became some of the cultural lexicon from the 80s. I remember collecting the ALF cards, the Booyah baseball cards. I still have some of those to this day. Always looking for the coveted Gordon Shumway card. So yeah, I have a lot of love for the character ALF. And to give everybody an idea of who ALF is, he's an alien life form. That's where you get ALF. Crashed into the Tanner's household and began living with the family. The names of the characters, boy, I almost feel like I need to do a primer for this. Willie, who was a social worker, he was the father of the family. Mac, who's played by Max Wright. His wife, Kate, played by Ann Shadeen. Their teenage daughter, Lynn, played by Andrea Elson. And the younger son, Brian, played by Benji Gregory. And they had a cat named Lucky. And if you've watched ALF, you remember that there is ALF's race considers cats a delicacy. So that was one of the running gags throughout the show, is ALF thinking he's going to try to eat the cat. So there you go. That's the basics of who ALF is, this alien life form that's crashed on Earth and is living with a family who's decided to take him in, trying to keep him secret so the government can't find him, and hilarity ensues because of all the hijinks ALF gets into. All right, let's get to what we've come here for, and that is the comparison of this comic to what the AI is seeing and what I see. So clearly I'm going to be able to perceive probably a lot more than the artificial intelligence is going to when it comes to the humor and sarcasm. But I am curious as to how well ChatGPT is going to tell this story. And I've got this thing broken down page by page, and we'll look at that. So our cover, and I had ChatGPT describe our cover to us, but I'll do my best here. It's mainly a picture of the Earth, and ALF is busting through it. And he says, "Nice planet you got here. When do we eat?" Okay, he was an alien life form, and I really hope that if you have never seen the series, you're not picturing some like gray alien gray life form or something like that with the big eyes and the oval head. No, that's not the case. ALF is furry, he's fuzzy, he's got a long snout, looks almost like a dog except he's can stand, and big ears, humanoid form, but just this like big furry fuzzball, sarcastic fuzzball. So anyway, the picture is of the Earth, and ALF is kind of busting through. We got up there in the corner box which says Marvel, and there's ALF, and he says great first issue. Up in the top right, exclusive money off video offer, which I assume they're offering like VHS tapes that have 2 episodes a piece on them. So it's like 1 hour VHS tapes. And there's another thing that says free stickers. Oh boy, there's some marketing going on there. So there you go. That's our first look. If you were walking past this at the drugstore, this is what you would have seen sitting on the shelf. Because again, this is issue number 1 for 35 pence. It's a Marvel UK joint. So let's see what ChatGPT says about this cover. So the cover features ALF, the titular alien life form, bursting through a cosmic backdrop, exclaiming, "Nice planet you got here. When do we eat?" The comic is advertised as the first issue with free stickers included. Didn't pick up on the fact that there was, it's actually the globe. You can see stars and planets in the background, so I get where it's saying cosmic backdrop. But yeah, you can actually, if you look a little closer, you can see the continent of Africa there. So, it's clearly the Earth that ALF is busting through. Our second page is actually a letter. It's kind of like this letter from ALF, and it starts out with a hymn, friends, your majesty, lend me your ears. He's clearly addressing the English crowd. But he goes into details here as to what the table of contents are. And there's a pinup poster at the end. Oh, Donna, which is, it's a picture of Donna Summer. I didn't put this in the synopsis or anything or throw this into ChatGPT, but it's a picture of Donna Summer, a very large, like, wall-sized picture, and Alf is standing below looking at it and going, oh, Donna. And it's a pinup poster of her, which is kind of strange. Like, okay, Donna baby is what he's saying. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so anyway, somebody could probably explain that to me if we got any listeners. Maybe that's something they did in comics back then, is throw pinups of celebrities, because Alf and Donna Summer aren't like, something that I tie together in my mind. So I have no idea. But anyway, this letter talks about and gives the history of Alf. He's 230 years old, from the planet Melmac. He spent 122 years of that in high school. He also indicates he likes to eat cats. He says, I haven't actually eaten a single cat since I've been here. They've all been married. And that took me a couple seconds. But then I realized, thank goodness, they made the word single bold, or I would have never got that. A single cat. They've all been married. And then his classic laugh, which is just one resounding word. Ha! Usually that was followed by with a I kill me. But anyway, he talks about living with the Tanners. Talks about needing to lighten up a little bit. He says Kate likes him. I get along with her, but I respect her territory. Says he's looking for a girlfriend. He talks about Rhonda, who he misses back on Melmac. Yes, that was a big theme in the show, is that he missed Rhonda. There was a Beach Boys song, if I remember correctly, that I tied with Alf just because of that specific fact. All right, so he gives us our table of contents. Talks about how he's here to stay. Alf's not going to go away. Hey, I'm a poet. According to ChatGPT, introduces Alf, explaining his origins from the planet Melmac. Alf is a 230-year-old Sagittarius who loves to eat cats, and that is exactly what is written on this page. He currently lives with the Tanners, an Earth family, and is adjusting to life on Earth. The page humorously details Alf's personality with his life with the Tanners and his longing for a girlfriend from his species. Okay. All right, and we're going to get into our story here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So again, this is Alf number 1 from Marvel UK. Our first story is called Alf in At Your Disposal. Michael Gallagher on the story, Dave Manick on pencils, Marie Severn on inks and colors, and Grace Kramer on letters. All right, now let me see what's going on in this story. Oh, so they're looking over Alf's spaceship, which looks like a car almost, and it's destroyed. Oh, and they're having a garage sale. Oh boy, it's funny because we are currently having a garage sale as I speak and read this. It is not fun. So Kate wants to sell the spaceship with the rest of the junk. I don't know if she's making a joke or she's serious. But so apparently this is a while after Alf had crashed there, because Willie's removing the blanket saying, hey, everybody, remember this? All right, so there's our first page. It's actually one big splash page. Let's see what it says. This is ChatGPT. Comic story titled At Your Disposal begins with Alf and the Tanners in the garage examining Alf's damaged spaceship. Alf expresses pride in his Melmacian spaceship's design, which he does, while the Tanners humorously consider selling it at a garage sale. Oh, okay, so it's humorously. Well, thanks for clearing that up for me, ChatGPT. I didn't know it was a joke. I thought she was serious. All right, next page. Not bad. Not bad. Kate wants to sell the spaceship for $1. Let me tell you, if you want it out of your house, you'll price it as low as you can go, get it gone, or you're going to end up. What was the point of having the sale in the first place? Sorry, that's obviously a hot point with me right now. So they're teasing him about selling it for $1 or maybe $2, and Brian has to step in and say, "Look, man, they're just kidding," because Alf's getting all bent out of shape. Oh, we get a little recap of how he arrived. Alf crashed the spaceship into the Tanner's attic. Alf turns into this house guest from hell, pretty much. Afterwards, oh yeah, our final panel of that page is Alf with a large butcher knife in hand on Thanksgiving Day, trying to get Lucky to come out from under the table. All right, so yeah, essentially a recap page here. So yes, as the Tanners tease Alf, this is from ChatGPT, as the Tanners tease Alf about selling a spaceship, Alf reminisces about his arrival on Earth. Their family recalls the night Alf crash landed on their garage roof. Is that what happened? Oh yeah, I guess it did say that. Crash landed on our garage roof, damaging his ship. They recount their efforts to help Alf adjust on Earth, including dealing with Alf's penchant for pizza and his love for their cat Lucky. So just to kind of give you a little preview of what's coming up. I asked ChatGPT to pick out the funniest moments of this book, and we will talk about those to see how ChatGPT did with picking the humorous spots out of this book and kind of give us an idea of its understanding of humor. So, okay, next page. Willie's, I think, going to sell some National Geographics. Boy, were those a common thing at yard sales sometimes. Jeez. So they decide to cover up the spaceship again because they don't want other people to see it. Brian looks at him after putting the cover back on. He says, we're just covering it up just like we all cover up for you, Alf. Like I said, they've got to try and deal with his shenanigans all the time. And Alf tells him, hey, if you learn how to lie, cultivate this ability to deceive, you could have a brilliant career in politics. Willie's had enough of that. Alf runs in to go watch My Favorite Martian, while Kate and Willie reminisce about the times before Alf. And so I guess they're getting prepared. The sale's tomorrow, and they're going to have some Chinese to celebrate the fact they're done setting up for it. And Alf wants some birds in his bird's nest soup. All right, so that's page 5. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what ChatGPT says. The Tanners decide to cover up Alf's spaceship to keep it hidden, as Alf worries about maintaining it for a good trade-in value, which he did make that joke. The family shares a moment of nostalgia, reflecting on how life has changed since Alf's arrival. Yes, it has. All right, next page. Everybody's cleaning up for dinner. Alf's heading for the TV room to go watch TV. Oh, Willie just found out that he set the spaceship too close to the garbage cans and the garbage men took it. Oh, okay, here's a Donna Summer joke. Alf's like, what? My ship? My only way home? My Donna Summer tapes? Willie's going to go to the dump to go see if he can get the ship back. And Alf's like, hey, why don't you Earthlings send your trash to the moon like everybody else on Melmac? Well, Alf hops in the car with Willie. They're heading to the dump. How will you tell my ship from the others? There's Ray Walston's Mork from Orcs, Mr. Spock's shuttlecraft. And Willie's like, okay, put on your seatbelt over your mouth. During dinner, according to ChatGPT here, the family clears the table and prepares for a garage sale. They already did that. Alf realizes his spaceship, well, Willie realized this, but I guess Alf realized it too, was placed too close to the garbage cans, has been taken by the trash men. Panicked, Alf and the Tanners set out to reclaim the spaceship from the dump, leading to a humorous exchanges about the differences between Earth and Melmacian customs. It's just Willie and Alf, but okay. All right, our next page. Willie's trying to get Alf to stay under the blanket so nobody will see him. He's talking to the security guard. Security guard says, nope, dump's closed. Willie's trying to convince him. And then Alf sticks his head out the window and insults the security guard. Your mother wears anti-gravity boots, you 2-bit rent-a-cop. The cop's trying to get the door unlocked so he can go and beat Willie up. I won't let you in, but brother, I'm coming out to see you. And they take off in their car. And it looks like they only went like 5 feet ahead. I don't understand because Alf jumps out of the car. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, I wonder if ChatGPT picked up on this. Alf was covered up, right? And he takes the cover and he kind of like throws it on some stuff in the back, so it makes it look like he hasn't left the car, but he has jumped out of the car while it was moving. So Willie's still driving down the road while Alf is now out of the car, unbeknownst to Willie, and heading into the dump as the security guard is chasing them. Security guard is cussing. Meanwhile, left the door open, and Alf is able to sneak in. So I'm really curious if ChatGPT is going to catch this. It may even just gloss over it, but I'm kind of curious as to what this is going to say. All right, let's see what this page says. Alf and Willie arrive at the city dump where they encounter a grumpy night watchman who refuses to let them in. Despite Willie's pleas, the watchman remains uncooperative, leading Willie to resort to insults. Alf, hidden under a blanket, tries to stay quiet, but ends up causing trouble, forcing Willie to drive off in frustration. That happened, but they didn't talk about the important part where Alf got out of the car in order to get into the dump. The night watchman's yelling and screaming and cursing. Obviously, it's all blurped out. Blurped? It's all, symbols and whatever, but it says, why don't you? And then it has a bunch of, he's clearly cursing. And Alf is like, that's physically impossible, even for an Earthling. All right, next page. All right, Alf's inside the gate now. Security guard has no idea. So Alf's going to go look for his ship. He finds a scratching post and smells it. And you can tell what year it was scratched on by a cat. But then he proceeds to sneeze. Security guard is alerted, takes his flashlight, shines it on Alf and thinks it's a giant rat. Runs to go get his shotgun. Alf takes off the other direction. Obviously, he's afraid for his life. He's picking up all this junk, too, which is pretty funny. This is a flea market with real fleas. Oh, and he finds his ship, and he says it's undamaged. Okay. All right, let's see what... okay. Undeterred, Alf sneaks into the dump to retrieve his spaceship. So that's right. While exploring, he finds a scratching post and enjoys a moment of nostalgia. Meanwhile, the watchman, suspicious of a noise, investigates and mistakes Alf for a giant rat. Panicked, he decides to grab his shotgun to deal with the supposed threat. That he does. All right, next page. Looks like the watchman now has a shotgun, and just after Alf finds the spaceship, the security guard shoots it, misses Alf. Alf has to duck out of the way. Now he's hiding. The guard is like, "Come out of here, you dirty rat." And Alf says, "I'm being hunted by a Jimmy Cagney freak." He says he's going to flash the security guard the intergalactic sign of peace, which is essentially jumping up out of a box, peekaboo, and sticking his hand at the end of his nose. It scares the security guard so bad, he shoots the gun in the air. Now he's got to reload, and Alf takes off running again. No respect for interstellar etiquette, according to Alf. So Alf runs to his car, and he says, "I've got to hover out of here." But he's got to take his junk, too, with him. So he's pushed that in the car, and then he is trying to start the thing up. He says he should have got that 60 million mile tune-up. Meanwhile, the security guard now has him in his sights at the end of this last panel on this page. According to ChatGPT, the watchman attempts to shoot Alf but misses, hitting Alf's spaceship instead. Alf tries to diffuse the situation by flashing an intergalactic sign of peace, which only agitates the watchman further. Alf manages to dodge the shots and gets to his spaceship, lamenting the buckshot pockmarks. He decides to hover away, but not without grabbing some souvenirs first. All right, next page. Alf gets the car started, and it lifts off. Security guard is frightened, and Donna Summer is playing in the radio. She works hard for the money. Security guard goes and runs to tell his boss, and then realizes that the story he's about to tell his boss is pretty unbelievable, that there was a large talking rat that he battled, and then the rat flew off in a musical pile of trash. He decides not to follow through with that plan. Alf gets his car above the Tanners and is about to pull in, just as he's about to lose power. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT says. Alf successfully lifts off in his spaceship, much to the watchman's bewilderment. The watchman, seeing the spaceship fly off, decides to call his boss and report the strange incident. Meanwhile, Alf flies back towards the Tanner's house, his spaceship sputtering as it loses power. Okay, didn't pick up on that joke about the security guard not telling his boss, but other than that, decent. Next page. Willie's trying to explain to his family how he lost Alf, which he doesn't know how. Says he's with him 1 minute and he wasn't there the next. And in comes Alf through the garage roof once again. Donna Summer blasting, "Bad girls, bad girls." So Willie is upset, of course, because Alf crashed through the garage again. He looks at Alf and he says, "Do you know what this will cost?" And Alf looks at him and says, "You're having a garage sale, so sell the garage." Good joke. That was good. And Alf proceeds to give his nasty presents that he picked up at the dump to his family members. He says, for Lynn, a bicycle chain necklace. Gives Brian a busted up tennis racket. For my Goomba, an almost new narrow jacket. And Kate here is the thing for those dishpan hands. Kate looks at Willie and says, "Give me the keys. I'm taking them back to the dump." All right, final page of that story. It says, inside the Tanner house, the family worries about Alf's whereabouts. Suddenly, they hear a loud crash as Alf's spaceship crashes through the garage roof again. Alf emerges from the wreckage with souvenirs for the family, including a bicycle chain necklace and an almost new narrow jacket. The comic ends with the Tanners exasperated and Willie ready to take Alf back to the dump, which it's more Kate that says that than Willie. So there you go. That's the first story. Not bad. A couple missteps, but really this thing covered, it told the story. Not a whole lot of stuff that was completely missed. Obviously, the humor, maybe it'll pick that up when I asked it about the funniest humor of this in this issue, but it isn't. The purpose, obviously, of the comic is to read it and get the jokes yourself. ChatGPT isn't going to list every joke that's there. It's just going to give you a summarization of what happened. If you guys are listening, you guys will have to tell me what you think. Send me a comment on the @SourceMattCast Twitter or go on to the Source Material Facebook page. We aren't done yet, though, because that was just the first story. We've still got another story to go. Alf and snow skin off my nose. Yes, snow skin off my nose, folks. All right, here we go. Mike, the credits are M. Gallagher, D. Manic, M. Severn. So I assume they're at the same roles as they did with the first story. It looks like Brian's trying to get... Looks like they may be on vacation. Brian's trying to... I can't tell if they're on vacation or if they're at the house. Well, I'll find out. Anyway, Brian's trying to get Alf to come outside, and Willie's like, nope, not going to happen. Yeah, they're at a ski resort, and they took Alf with them as long as he stayed inside. Oh, this is a good joke. This is a good joke. I say it's a good joke. I mean, I know it's 1988, folks. Alf's trying to convince Willie he can go outside. He says, I'll just slip into this coat and assume my secret identity, Peter Parka. Peter Parka. Perfect. All right, what did ChatGPT say about this page? The second story, titled Snow Skid Off My Nose, begins with Alf and the Tanner family at a ski resort. Willie reminds Brian that they brought Alf on the condition he stays inside. Alf humorously assures Willie he will be careful by disguising himself as Peter Parka. Okay. All right, next page. Oh, Willie's tired of his shenanigans. He grabs the coat off of Alf. That's the last. Oh, grabs it so hard, knocks Alf over. He's going to call the SPCA, the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Aliens. Brian at least talks Willie into letting Alf look through the window. Alf says, thank you, O King of the Earth. And Willie's like, sarcasm will get you nowhere. Well, Alf's going nowhere. Trust me. Well, he followed that up with, it got me to the window. Well, so Kate comes out. They all go to the window. And turns out Brian built a snowman that looks like Alf. Alf says, you're another Mike and Angelo. And Kate's like, you mean Michelangelo? And he's like, no, Mike and Angelo. They ran a pizza parlor on Melmac. Their pizzas were a work of art. With cattails, by the way. Willie remembers they need to go grocery shopping. I guess Kate makes a joke and Alf is not pleased. What'd you use for that nose? A giant zucchini? Oh boy. All right, how'd you do, ChatGPT? Alf clumsily bumps into Willie while trying to put on his disguise. Brian asks if Alf can at least look through the window, and Willie reluctantly agrees. Alf marvels at the snow outside and watches Brian build an Alf snowman, much to everyone's amusement. Wow, that is way off, because Willie grabbed the coat, knocking Alf down, and Brian is not outside building the snowman, although the last panel sort of looks like he's outside. I don't know. Us as a reader would not get confused, but you can see how ChatGPT could probably make the mistake that Brian is building the snowman himself. Which, by the way, he looked at the reader. He broke the fourth wall when Kate made that joke about the giant zucchini, and Alf's like, excuse my nose for living. All right, so Kate and Willie are heading to the grocery store, needs Lynn to babysit. Alpha's upset about the joke that Kate made. He says, you know, we have an expression for women like Kate on Melmac. Brian's like, please, Alf, last time you taught me one of those, I was grounded for a week. Looks like Lynn's working on some kind of a school project that she's brought along there. She's making decorations for the school dance. Brian and Alf agree to help. There's mention of that she's going to use fake snow, and Alf cannot believe that. Brian sprays a bunch of fake snow right in his face. And Alf's like, sorcery. Alf acts like he's calling somebody to get help because of what happened. All right, let's see how ChatGPT did this with this one. The family decides to go grocery shopping, leaving Alf to babysit Brian. Nope. Alf and Brian talk about Brian's school project. Nope. And for the upcoming snowball dance, which is true. It's called the snowball dance. Alf offers to help by spraying fake snow on snowflake stencils to decorate the school windows. Alf is fascinated by the snow in a can and starts playing with it, calling it sorcery. Nah, it was a really bad one. So ChatGPT's kind of fallen off here. No mention of Lynn. Like Lynn doesn't exist. Alf legitimately thought this was sorcery. Brian has to explain to him, hey, look, it's something that is created. It's fake snow in a can. Alf is running around with the snow in a can, claiming how forecasters on TV are always wrong. This is instant weather. This story has taken a weird turn. Okay, so Alf is dancing around with the snow in a can, right? He's having a blast. And then all of a sudden he acts like he's just punched in the face. I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, well, my stomach hurts now. It's like someone had a voodoo doll of me. And then Brian puts two and two together somehow and says, voodoo, oh no, my snowman. He runs outside and he finds this bully, I guess, they call him a bully, who is punching the crap out of the snowman. And apparently it's hurting Alf. Brian goes out to confront the bully, and the bully pushes him over into the snow. So yes, we got some weird supernatural stuff going on here where Alf is connected in some way to this snowman. Leads me to a lot of questions. And let's see how ChatGPT gets this. So Alf continues to play with the snow spray, creating instant weather indoors. should put that in quotes. Brian accidentally sprays Alf, causing Alf to react dramatically. They notice that a bully outside is wrecking Brian's Alf snowman. Alf feels a sympathetic connection to the snowman, feeling pain as the bully hits it. So it picked that up, which I'm pretty impressed there. Still no mention of Lynn, but yeah, he's beat the crap out of the snowman. Also, Alf reacting dramatically is the sympathetic pain that he's supposedly feeling. All right, next page. Alf is wanting to get outside and help Brian out. And this bully has taken a boot to Brian's butt. His name is Jimmy DeLocke, this bully. And this is my turf. You build another snowman and you'll be sorry. Get the picture, punk? Now beat it before I lose my temper, crybaby. And Brian takes off crying to the house. Alf says, hey, I hate violence at some point on this page, and then says, look, let's build a photon pistol and we'll vaporize them. Brian is upset, runs into the, I assume, bathroom, closes the door, leave me alone, both of you. And then we snap to later that evening where Alf and Lynn are explaining to Willie and Kate what happened. Apparently, they go to check on him, but Brian's asleep, and Willie says he's going to deal with the bully tomorrow. All right, let's see how ChatGPT said. Brian confronts the bully, Jimmy DeLocke, who threatens to destroy any snowmen Brian builds. Alf wants to fight back, but Kate holds him back. Nope, that's Lynn. Saying they don't condone violence. Brian, upset, runs to his room, slamming the door. The family comforts Alf, who feels guilty for not helping Brian more. That didn't happen at all. So yeah, ChatGPT is not getting things right. And at no point on this page did Alf say he was upset because he couldn't help him more. I mean, Alf does say bummer after it's explained to Will and Kate, but that's it. All right, well, we're getting into the second to last page here. So Alf is trying to figure out how Willie's going to address this. He's expected him to go beat this kid up. And Willie's like, no, he's going to get a stern lecture. So Alf grabs this can of fake snow that he found earlier. Now he's got some kind of an idea. And he sprays himself with the can of snow after finding out the address for the DeLocks. So outside Jimmy DeLocke's window, Alf opens it up, and he's this white covered furball now. Says, I am the great snow spirit. Jimmy, by the way, who was sleeping and is now scared to death after Alf wakes him up. Behold, James, I am the great snow spirit. You have dared to desecrate my image, so I will haunt you for the rest of your life. Okay, that's funny. Alf is like the snowman, and Jimmy believes that the snowman has come back to haunt him. So I will haunt the rest of your life, except weekends and holidays. And Jimmy is absolutely frightened. All right, what'd you say, ChatGPT? At night, Alf devises a plan to scare the bully. He dresses up as a great snow spirit using the fake snow spray and sneaks out to Jimmy's house. Alf manages to scare Jimmy by pretending to haunt him for desecrating his image. Alf humorously adds that he will only haunt him on weekdays, leaving Jimmy terrified and promising not to harm any more snowmen, which he didn't do that, really. Jimmy did not say anything. He just said, who's there? Yeah, and no. He was scared. So what's our final panel here? Or excuse me, our final page. All right. Jimmy starts begging for forgiveness. Alf tells him to rebuild what he destroyed and keep the nose at a minimum. So the next morning, Brian wakes up and he looks outside and there's this massive snowman that Jimmy DeLocke had rebuilt that looks like Alf. Kate looks at Alf and says, explain this. And Alf's like, you can't explain art. You can only enjoy it. While Lynn says, you've got real bad dandruff. It looks like fake snow. And Jimmy DeLocke leaning up against the completed snowman. He is out of breath. Okay, how'd you do, ChatGPT? Jimmy DeLocke, terrified by Alf's snow spirit act, begs for forgiveness and promises to rebuild the snowman. Alf, still in character, demands that Jimmy keep the snowman's nose to a minimum. Jimmy hurriedly agrees and rushes outside to complete the task before dawn. The next morning, Brian excitedly calls the family outside, showing them that Jimmy has indeed rebuilt the Alf snowman. The Tanners are amazed, with Brian attributing the change to the snow spirit. That happened? I don't think so. I mean, Willie's looking at it and says, my goodness, the spirit really moved him. Kate, noticing the fake snow on Alf, asks for an explanation. She does not. Well, maybe she does. I don't know. But you can't see it on Alf. That's not obvious. Alf, covered in snow, which he is not, tries to dodge the question, and the family humorously concludes the scene with a mix of awe and amusement. All right. Well, not a good showing here for ChatGPT on this story. Alf, that final page, I could maybe think, maybe ChatGPT thought that the snowman was Alf covered in snow, but Alf is clearly leaning out the window. So, I don't know. Isn't a good sign. It definitely made some mistakes. All right, we've got one more story to go. And the good thing is, I think this is only 6 pages. And this next one is called Play Misty for Me, which, by the way, there's a little bit of an interstitial page in here where it's like letters to Alf. And I'll just read one of them. Alf, everyone laughs at you. What makes you laugh? Monica from Ire, I guess is what that is. Alf says, let me think. 7 things that make Alf laugh. I'll read them from 7 to 1. 7, Vanessa Paradis. No idea. Number 6, Furry Dice. Number 5, Levi 501s. I don't understand why that makes him laugh. Number 4 is Censored. Number 3 is Thomas the Tank Engine. Number 2 is Censored. And then number 1 is The Human Race. Oh boy. All right, our next story. Play Misty for Me. Looks like our credits are Gallagher, Manic, and Severin again. Alpha's jumping around in a clothes basket, and Kate's like, what are you doing? Because of his antics, apparently she's worried that he made a cake fall that was in the oven. I can't remember in the history if Melmac was destroyed and he escaped. I feel like that's the case. As he's jumping around, Kate's like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm just remembering my glory days as an orbit guard on Melmac. And then he sighs, and Kate's like, oh boy, I know this sigh. He's going to tell us a story. And he mentions how Melmac was a doomed world. And it's been a while since I watched the show, but Willie's like, all right, let's go ahead and tell us. We'd like to hear it. All right, so there's our first page. The story starts with Alf engaging in some chaotic antics involving a laundry basket. Kate, frustrated, demands to know what he is doing. Alf explains he is reminiscing about his old days as an orbit guard on Melmac. He starts to tell a story about his past adventures, much to Kate's dismay, as she expects another long tale. Willie, however, encourages Alf to share. Good. All right, next page. Kate with the nose jokes. Alf says, it was so foggy, you couldn't see the nose in front of your face. In your case, that'd be a blessing. All right, so the story starts out. He makes it sound like it's real serious. He had gotten hit, but it turns out he was hit by Rhonda in a bumper car. They're doing bumper cars. He talks Rhonda into going for a walk with him. They go on the boardwalk. They're walking. And all of a sudden it starts to become really foggy. He can't find her arm to hold it. Talks about grabbing her body, and he notices that says she's kind of distant. He starts to lean in for a kiss, and it turns out Alf is trying to make out with a bush while Rhonda's sitting on a bench who lights a match, that he is kissing a bud bush. And they comment on how thick this fog is. Turns out the fog is being created by somebody. And they say, Melmacians, you will learn where the fog is coming from. All right, so that's the last panel on that page. Alf recounts a foggy day when he was on duty. He humorously describes his inability to see due to the thick fog. Suddenly, he was hit by his girlfriend, Rhonda, in a bumper car. Rhonda was better at bumper cars than Alf, who was delighted by her presence. They decided to leave the bumper cars and stroll along the boardwalk, but the fog was so thick Alf couldn't see her. Instead, he accidentally kissed a bud bush. Okay, no mention of this evil thing that's causing the fog, but let's see what this next page says. The evil of El Fogo has come to claim the puny planet, and if you do not surrender in 27 hours, I'll bring the fog back permanently. Now, there's an editor's note that days are longer on Melmac. Just remember that. All right, so Alf, a member of the Orbit Guard, is getting called into action. So I assume this is like the National Guard. They seem like they're a big bunch of bumbling idiots. One guy slips on an oil slick in this hall that they're all meeting in. There's another Melmacian eating a donut. He's trying to figure out what the secret ingredient is, and the other guy's like, it's library paste. Ew. All right, so they're getting ready to be briefed by the sergeant about what's going on. He asks if there's any question before the briefing. Alf raises his hand and says, I was briefed, but they're not my size, and he holds up a pair of the classic heart-adorned boxer shorts. And the sergeant's like, go see the supply clerk. The rest of you attack. All right, let's see. As the fog lifted, Alf realized he had mistaken a bush for Rhonda. The evil Fogo appeared, threatening to cover the planet in permanent fog unless they surrendered in 27 hours. The citizens panicked, but the Orbit Guard, including Alf, quickly assembled to respond to the threat. Sergeant Staff briefed the troops, and they prepared for an assault on El Fogo's lair at Fort Fog. That's right. Okay. All right, so all the Orbit Guard head off to go attack Fort Fog. And let me tell you, these planes that they're attacking Fort Fog with, goofy. El Fogo throws out a bunch of fogs and they can't see. Alf talks about how he is going to attack with the rest of the Orbit Guard, but was having a high-level meeting with Sergeant Staff. And when he says that, you see that he actually crashed into Sergeant Staff, which is the sergeant's name, Sergeant Staff's plane in midair. Alf's plane, by the way, has a bumper sticker that says, I love Tom Cruise on it. So we're making a Top Gun joke here. As they parachute to the ground, Sergeant Staff says he's going to call them to go take care of Alfago. And Alf's like, no, you wouldn't do that. They're merciless. And sure enough, he gets on the phone. Get me the officers. Oh boy. All right, ChatGPT, how'd you do? The Orbit Guard's fleet took off, heading for Fort Fog. However, Alfago saw them coming and retaliated, using his fog to obscure their vision. Many of the Orbit Guards had to bail out, but Alf managed to stay in the fight. Despite the chaos, Sergeant Staff decided to call for backup. The dreaded Lone Officers. Is that even said? That's not even said on this page. That's interesting. ChatGPT is jumping to the next page to tell the story, which is fine. I'm curious because it's a big bit where he's like, you're going to call them? Wait, no way. And then he yells, get me the officers. Now we're going to learn about the lone officers here in a second. Here we go. So next page, the entire planet held its breath for the officers appeared on the horizon. Alf doing a poltergeist riff. They're here. Alfago's terrified of these things. For these were not military officers. They were the dreaded lone officers. So there's these lone officers carrying bags into Alfago's Fort Fog. And they quickly began to liquidate Alfago's assets. Oh my goodness, the jokes. It appears you have missed, M-I-S-T, several payments. We shall have to foreclose on Fort Fog. Fill out this form in triplicate. And hurry, it's almost 2 o'clock. And Alfago quickly melts away, turning into steam. The lone officers evaporate him. And so a world holiday was declared. We called it Fogger's Day. All right. Okay, ChatGPT, how'd you do? The lone officers, known for their ruthlessness, arrived on the scene. Alfago, unprepared to deal with them, was quickly overwhelmed as they began to liquidate his assets for missed payments. As they filled out the necessary paperwork, Alfago turned into steam, effectively evaporating him. The citizens declared a world holiday, Fogger's Day, to celebrate the victory. Okay. All right, last page. We snap back to present day where Alf is finishing up. He's finished up his story. Willie thought it was great. Kate dozed off. Willie wants to know if Alfago ever returned. Apparently he never did, but he floats through the galaxy seeking revenge of all Melmacians. And then a bunch of smoke comes into the room and Alf yells, there he is now. And Kate takes off running. That is her cake. Alf was legitimately scared apparently and jumped into Willie's arms. Kate's upset and says, I hope you like your cake well done. And Alpha's like, I thought it was Alfago about to give me just desserts. And there it is, the classic, ha! Willie, meanwhile, goes down to the cellar and says, let me know when the smoke clears. All right, there we go. All right, ChatGPT. Back in the present, Alf concludes his story. Kate, who had dozed off, is startled awake. Alf assures them that Alfago never returned, but his legend persists. Suddenly, the oven starts smoking, and Kate thinks Alfago has returned. That's not the case, but it's just her cake burning. Alf tries to calm her down with humor, but Willie takes him away to let the smoke clear. Willie did not take him away. Willie got the heck out. All right. Well, there you go. That is Alf number 1. ChatGPT. Boy, I don't know. I'd probably give it maybe a C+ in telling us what happened in this comic. So it can read comics for you, and it can kind of give you the basic gist of what's going on, but don't expect it to give you the exact specifics of everything that happened, because it does get confused a little bit sometimes. Now, if I was doing it a page at a time, granted, I was doing 6 pages at a time, so maybe there was an issue, but I mean, even on that last page of that story with the snowman, it got some stuff wrong just looking at one page over. So, I'm sitting there wondering if there's a possibility of me overwhelming it by giving it 6 pages at a time. But it does fairly decent. It did pretty decent with that first story. The second story, not so much. This last story, not bad. Let me ask ChatGPT one more time, because I asked it to provide the funniest moments. Okay, all right. So 8 moments here that it thought was pretty funny. Here we go.
Certainly. Here are some of the funniest moments from the entire issue of the ALF comic book. 1. Cover pun and ALF's expression. The cover itself sets a humorous tone with ALF's catchphrase, "Nice planet you got here. When do we eat?" It's a clever play on ALF's voracious appetite and curiosity about Earth. 2. ALF's introduction. In the introduction, ALF humorously explains his origins, his age of 230 years, and his love for eating cats, which he has had to give up due to Earth's customs. His quirky narration and misunderstanding of human culture are quite funny. 3. Garage sale chaos. In At Your Disposal, the family's discussion about selling Alf's spaceship at a garage sale is hilariously absurd. Alf's panic and the Tanner's casual approach to selling alien technology make for a comedic scenario. 4. Alf's attempt to retrieve his spaceship. The scene at the dump where Alf tries to sneak in while hiding under a blanket, and the ensuing interaction with the grumpy watchman, is classic physical comedy. Alf's antics, including the watchman mistaking him for a giant rat, add to the humor. 5. Scare tactics with the watchman. Alf's plan to scare the watchman by pretending to be a giant rat is funny, especially when the watchman freaks out and tries to shoot Alf, leading to more chaos. 6. Elaborate hoax on the bully. In Snow Skin Off My Nose, Alf's transformation into the Great Snow Spirit to scare the bully, Jimmy DeLocke, is hilarious. The over-the-top acting and Jimmy's terrified reaction add to the comedic effect. 7. The Dalmatian Fog Story. In Play Misty for Me, the entire tale of Elfago is filled with funny moments, from Alf's misunderstanding with Rhonda to the appearance of the loan officers. The absurdity of fighting a villain with bureaucracy and paperwork is a clever and humorous twist. 8. The Cake Incident. The issue's ending where Kate mistakes the smoking oven for Elfago's return and Alf's misunderstanding, thinking he's being punished for something, is a humorous mix-up. Alf's witty comment about the cake being well done adds a final touch of humor. These moments showcase the blend of slapstick, satire, and situational comedy that make the ALF comic issue a delightful read filled with laughs.
Okay. So everything went well there until number 8, where apparently it got everything backwards during the whole cake thing. It was Kate that was upset about the cake being well done, and then Alf, I don't know where it thought that Alf was being punished for something. I have no idea. It does say Easy Kate. I thought it was Elfago about to give me my just desserts, which I guess could be interpreted as a punishment. But the rest of them were pretty good bits. The other 7 were pretty good. I want to say there's some bits that I like, just the subtle things, like the I Love Tom Cruise bumper sticker on the plane. The fact that snowman story was kind of all over the place. I like the dandruff joke at the end. It was weird, though. Like, why was Alf getting punched in the face? Why was there this voodoo connection with Alf? I have no idea. And then at the beginning with our first story was pretty funny. Like, Alf jumping. This is something, when I think of this comic, I try to think of like, okay, would this have been a good episode of the show? That first one was pretty good. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was an episode where Alf's kind of sneaking around at night and, they're trying to avoid being detected, but sometimes he just doesn't care. And of course we get the Donna Summer jokes in there. I really like the first story the best. So, I don't know, should we ask ChatGPT anything? Let's ask it, like, what would have been the best story out of these 3 to be made into an episode of the show?
Adapting one of the 3 stories from the ALF comic book to the ALF television series involves considering which story best fits the show's humor, character interactions, and overall tone. Here are brief considerations for each story and the final recommendation. 1. At your disposal. Pros: this story involves Alf's spaceship, a core element of the series, and showcases Alf's chaotic impact on the Tanner family's life. The humor from Alf trying to retrieve his spaceship from the city dump would translate well to the show's physical comedy style. Cons: the story involves a lot of external scenes and a city dump setting, which might be more challenging to recreate convincingly on the show's budget. 2. Snow Skin Off My Nose. Pros: this story is centered around the Tanners taking a trip to a ski resort, which is a fresh setting for the series. Alf's antics, such as becoming the Great Snow Spirit to scare a bully, provide plenty of humorous and heartwarming moments. The family dynamics and Alf's protective nature over Brian are well highlighted. Cons: requires a winter resort setting, which could be more demanding to film. 3. Play Misty for Me. Pros: this story features Alf reminiscing about his days on Melmac, which allows for creative flashbacks and new alien characters. The main plot involving the fog monster Elfago and the loan officers would be visually interesting and unique. The bureaucratic humor with the loan officers is clever and aligns well with the show's comedic style. Cons: the story's reliance on special effects and fog might be challenging for the TV series' production capabilities. Recommendation: Snow Skin Off My Nose. Reasoning: this story best captures the heart of the ALF television series. It focuses on the Tanner family dynamics, showcases ALF's protective and humorous personality, and involves relatable situations like family trips and dealing with bullies. The comedic elements are straightforward to adapt, and the winter setting can be managed with appropriate set design and costuming. The idea of ALF as the Great Snow Spirit is both funny and endearing, making it a memorable episode for viewers. Adapting Snow Skin Off My Nose would bring fresh scenery to the series while maintaining the beloved humor and character interactions that fans enjoy.
Well, there you go, folks. Just kind of a little peek into the world of artificial intelligence, large language models, and comic books, and merging the two together to see what we can get. Thanks for listening. If you've stuck around and gave this episode a chance, I appreciate it. Maybe there will be something more like this in the future. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.